Good morning. My name is Sara Gorham. I am a licensed prayer practitioner here at Light on the Mountains, and it is with great joy that I am here this morning, and I invite all of us to take a moment now and center ourselves, maybe close our eyes, and feel that joy of community. And know that resonance between all of us, whether we are in this room or gathered across the universe, we are held in love by the same force, the same energy, that energy and spirit that animates each and every one of us, that holds us all in love. We are that, and that loving force supports each and every one of us. It brings us together. It knows us all in fellowship and celebration. And so from that place of embrace, and so from that place of connection and union and fellowship, I give thanks for this morning. I give thanks for each and every person who makes this broadcast and this service possible, for RL and his beautiful music, for Terry and for the other stewards of our leadership council, for Reverend John and Reverend Jill, for Huck who is doing our live stream. I give thanks, and I know that all of us join in celebration, and all of us join in thanks, as together we say, and so it is. I came across a TED Talk this week by a woman named Valerie Kaur, an author, civil rights attorney, an activist, and a member of the Sikh faith. In a talk, she encourages us to see no stranger, and in fact has written a book by that title. I was struck by the simplicity and the complexity of that invitation, especially in these challenging times when we seem so particularly estranged from one another. Politics appear dependent upon cultivating division, and the ongoing pandemic requires our physical distance from one another, even from those we love. It would seem that the practice of seeing no stranger has never been more impossible, and yet, maybe, our physical distance and our silos of limiting identity actually give us the opportunity to start afresh and to begin that practice where all creation originates, first in consciousness. It gives us the opportunity to begin by grounding our knowing not just in the head, but within the heart of our divine self. That part of us that is not reactive, not triggered by opinions or events we consider upsetting. It is the part of us that is never limited by time or distance. When we ground ourselves in that place of deep knowing, we can then begin to draw upon what I think of as one of the greatest superpowers that we as humans have been gifted with, our own curiosity. We can be curious about others, about their stories, especially the stories of those from whom we might feel the most estranged. For when we truly unwind all of our stories, we find that they all begin at a common point of origin, a place of innocence and potential and source. This being the Christmas season, I recently returned to a part of my childhood Christmas experience that is probably a bit outside of the usual thing. When I was growing up, my brother and sister and I and some of the neighbor kids would put on our own production of an opera called Amal and the Night Visitors, which tells the story of a poor, crippled shepherd boy and his widowed mother as they are visited by the three kings, the Magi. My siblings and I combined our limited talents to make Amal's crutch, an important prop in the story, out of an old broom handle and paper mache, and we each took turns playing all the roles in the pageant. As I recall it, our young voices could easily hit those high operatic notes in a way that, I promise you, was not happening as I tried to sing along this week. In the story, the kings have asked to rest for a while in the humble house where Amal and his mother live. Amal, who has a vivid imagination and a child's irrepressible optimism, peppers the kings with questions, finding them enticingly exotic and curiosity-worthy. He clearly sees no stranger. But the phenomena of watching divergent stories truly unwind to their common point of origin happens in an exchange between the kings and Amal's mother, when the kings ask, "Have you seen a child, the color of wheat, the color of dawn? His eyes are mild and his hands are those of a king, as king he was born." And she answers, yes, that she knows that child, for in her eyes, that child is her child. My son, my darling, my own. I always cry during that song, for what parent doesn't deeply feel the divine nature at the center of their child? I won't spoil the story. You can find it online. But in the end, the kings also come to see the divine as it expresses through and as Amal. They see him as miraculous and invite him to join them on their pilgrimage to find the Christ child. Though Amal has no gold or incense to offer, he brings the offering of his crutch, in case the Christ child is, in fact, just like him and might need such a thing. We are all, at our center, miraculous. Souls in expression in myriad forms, with far more in common than our stories might initially suggest. I encourage all of us to remember that and to do our best to see no stranger. To know that I am another you, and you are another me. Or as Valerie Kaur put it in her TED Talk, you are a part of me that I don't yet know. May we all become better acquainted.
Thank you, R.L. Good morning, everybody. Happy Hanukkah. Happy almost Merry Christmas. Joyous Kwanzaa coming up after that. And anything between that I missed as we're coming to the solstice. So I had an interesting experience this week as I was having some of my daily quiet time. It seems to be less intimidating calling quiet time, not meditation time. It doesn't seem like so official that you have to do something official if you're meditating, but if you're quiet, that's something else. And a song started to play in my head. And I've come to learn there's a difference from the monkey mind sounds that come in that I need to bless and show the door with things that come in that I need to pay attention to. And so the song that came to my mind, something that I had not heard for years that was very popular in 1971 while I was in high school, was Moonshadow by Cat Stevens, better now known as Yusef, since he converted to Islam. And apparently he is more open to his music being out and about in the world again. And so, yes, I'm being followed by a moonshadow, 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 leaping and hopping on a moonshadow, moonshadow, moonshadow. And as I was listening to this tune in my head, asking why it was there, I realized we are literally now being followed by a moonshadow. Tomorrow there is a total eclipse of the sun. Don't get excited. It's not locally in North America, but it will be in South America this time. And I started throughout the week kind of reminiscing of August 2017 here. For those that are listening that were here, it was so exciting because we had our own total eclipse of the sun. It's like, who knew that in Ketchum, Idaho, up in the mountains of Idaho, that we would have this amazing, really awe-inspiring gift. And you really don't know how inspiring it is until you've experienced it. It was so easy to go, yeah, that'll be nice, but to actually experience it was amazing. And for those that were here, you know that what I was talking about. And of course, the thing is, where is one going to experience this? And I decided to go up on the lawn by the pavilion on the Sun Valley Resort property. And for those that aren't local, Sun Valley Resort's a pretty big property and have a big expanse of lawn. And so I was there with, I guess you could say, about 3,000 of my friends. And even I was thinking about that, I was like, wow, all those people that I was with. How amazing was that? And nobody even thought if anyone like coughed on the side or anything. It was like, no problem. And so just there on the lawn, and it was a nice summer day waiting for the eclipse. And then, of course, it's a very slow thing. And we're all there with our official glasses. We had the official ones by Ketchum. I don't know where mine is at this point. But of course, very dark because if you look up at when it's in process, you are in danger of having your eyesight damaged. But at the point of the totality, you can take the glasses off. And they have what they call the ring of fire. And it was amazing. I mean, any pictures you see doesn't do it justice. And for that 2 or 3 minutes or whatever it was, it's just this amazing thing. And people were cheering. And I can't tell you how many pops I heard from champagne. The champagne was all over the place. And I remember this man was running around bottles to people he didn't know. And it was just pretty amazing. And even the temperature went down. And it was an exciting and celebratory moment and really a sacred moment. But as I further thought of the eclipse experience, I thought of how different our experience is today than it has been of our ancestors. People who didn't understand the science of astronomy. That in a world, most of our ancestors actually thought that the Earth was stationary. And I don't know how, stationary on what, and that the sun and the stars and the moon, they rotated around us. I guess the ultimate of narcissism. The universe circulated around us. And so if you were, hanging out in the Middle Ages or any other time, and if you had a total eclipse of the sun, you would be beyond terrified. You would think that your god or gods, depending on what civilization was ending the world, that possibly that your village had done something wrong, and this was the comeuppance for it. And it was literally, a time of just, of terror. And even after, of course, it slowly passed, and people going, well, I guess the prayer I did just worked. But still, what did we do wrong? This terror in the whole community about this thing that they didn't understand. And looking at that balance of, celebration and terror, that it's so appropriate that we're being followed by a moonshadow in December of 2020. It's like just when you thought the events of the year were over, here we go with a full eclipse of the sun. But when we look at the lessons or the larger themes of this time of year, yes, we are looking at transformation. We are looking at light and allowing light to illuminate not only our communities, but our souls and our consciousness to come hopefully to a higher place and a deeper understanding. And if you look at the stories of the season, they all have those metaphors within them that you can go very deep into them and for personal and group study. But often what we miss or look over as we look at these metaphors and these stories year after year is that we want to quickly get through the shadow part. We want to quickly get through, I guess you could say, the eclipse portion where everything goes dark. That all this month leading up until the 21st, which is just shy of Christmas, certainly, the days are still getting shorter and the nights getting longer. And the whole point of this is that even though there is promise of great light, that now is the time to look at what Carl Jung calls the shadow, those inner, deeper beliefs. And in a normal Christmas, Hanukkah time, is there such a thing? We are so excited about Christmas and Hanukkah and putting up the lights and buying gifts and going to any number of parties and seeing our friends and meeting them for coffee and just celebrating. And of course, we're not doing that now, but in that time, we forget about, before you can transform and have light, you have to look at the absence. Before you can put light on the dark, you have to be honest about, what have I allowed to hide in the dark? And we do this individually, and we do this as a community, as a group, as a country, as a world. And just looking at this concept of the shadow, did a little bit of 5-minute research on Carl Jung this week. He said everyone has a shadow, and in his opinion, that it was the accumulation of an individual's negative thoughts about themselves, accumulation of their fears, the things about themselves that they don't want to face, And that his belief that the whole point of psychotherapy was that you face those things, that you can't move beyond and you can't heal until you look at those ideas, those negative ideas that you're harboring. And science mind philosophy has a similar teaching through Ernest Holmes that says that we have accumulated what he calls false beliefs, meaning ideas that we have convinced ourselves that are true that aren't true. And in both instances, our lives are through these negative, false filters. And until we bring those filters down, we can't get to the light. We can't get to transformation. And we do this not only as individuals, but as communities. I would say that this year and this eclipse time, that as a community and a country and as a world even, we are facing probably the most significant shadow moment that we have ever had in a time that I can think of. It's really come out for us to look at. It's really come out for us to try to understand and at the same time overcome that terror of the eclipse of, oh my God, it's so dark. What do we do? As I was doing my 5-minute research on Carl Jung, now I'm an expert, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more. This was so interesting. This person who wrote this article, and including Carl Jung's work, he said that when you look at someone's brain chemistry, who is just all hyped up on fear and conspiracy theories, that it's the same biological profile as someone who is in addictions. That, this fear within ourselves feeds on itself. That as we try to look at the shadow right now and say, well, what's really in there? That we can be so hyped up with our own fear, like, oh my God, the sky is falling, that it's difficult to see the truth. That it almost is an energy that feeds upon itself. And so part of the lessons here is, as we try to let the light in, is to say, bring us back down to earth. What's really here? We had a little discussion before we let you in on the discussion. I always like our little pre-service discussions more than anything else. And sometimes it is about marshmallows and things like that, but and what we're cooking for the holidays. But how interesting that even as enlightened as we all are, how we can take this much of information and turn it into this big old thing that has nothing to do with the truth. Have you done that this week? I have. Had like a 5-minute hour going on in my head until it was like, oh, that was only part of the information. I guess I was completely wrong. And then I said, I'm so glad I didn't send that email. And, so don't send the email until you have that information. But there's so much on the individual level, and especially now on the larger level, where things are really coming out of the woodwork and out of control, and things as our group consciousness that we don't want to claim or take even a little bit of just ourselves and saying, as a group consciousness, I'm part of that. And of course, it's easy, not easy. When we talk about it in a broad sense, it makes sense. When we look at some of the details, not so much. We start to wonder, where is this coming from? Am I contributing to this consciousness in any way? What work do I individually need to do? What work does my family need to do? And I received an email from my favorite rabbi this week, I guess, or else too, Rabbi Robbie. I love Rabbi Robbie. Hi, Rabbi Robbie, if you're watching. She is the rabbi of our local Wood River Jewish community. And of course, she sent this to me very distressed. She says, Shalom, my friends. You have undoubtedly heard the news that the Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial in Boise was defaced last night by swastikas and threatening signs. We need your help. This happened in our state, at a place that is a sanctuary and educational facility that deals with hate in all its forms. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah, a holiday where we bring light into darkness. We need our interfaith communities to once again teach and preach against anti-Semitism in this state. This is not who we are in Idaho. We, meaning like Jewish people, are so tired and are very grateful to have our various communities to count on interfaith groups all over Idaho who are rallying, writing, and supporting us. I am dealing with a very scared community right now. We are taking very quick steps to secure both our offices and the new building that we bought in Elkhorn. How horrible to be here yet again. Thanks, I am really exhausted once again. So on some level, we all have to own this darkness that is seeping up. And own it, not that I or you or personally did something to allow this to happen, but to realize in this time of looking at what is in the darkness, this is the one of many things that's coming up. That it's so easy when we look at collective darkness to say, I don't have any ownership of that at all. That it doesn't even affect me at all. That includes a group that I'm not a part of. And the perpetrators of it are a group that I'm not a part of. But just Rabbi Robbie's email affected me personally, that if I had any idea that this wasn't part of me or mine to do, that this told me that it was something otherwise. Robbie is my friend, not just a colleague. There are many members of the local Wood River Jewish community that on occasion come on Sunday mornings when we have people coming on Sunday mornings just as a little extra shot in the arm in addition to what they get through Rabbi Robbie. So it's not other people. It's us. We like to even think in the West that we are these mavericks that live and let live. And maybe that is mostly true, but for some people it's not true. So something like this shows, I believe, the collective darkness that we are needing to look at right now. To get off of that fear thinking that just even multiplies it more. And to look at what is mine to do. How can I open my heart in a different way? How can I, in my personal dealings with people, and in my own personal opinions, not go immediately to DEFCON 1 in my arguments? How can I be the person to take that step back and try to see a larger picture and know that we each show up as a point of consciousness, either in a positive or a negative way? And even at a time that, again, it seems like our country has lost its collective mind, how can we each personally bring a bit of sanity into the discussion? You still stand for what you believe, but you do it from a different state of being. I believe that's our job right now. That this is a really difficult period of looking at the darkness. But the light is on the way nonetheless. In fact, our job is not to just acknowledge the darkness, but to see the light as already here. When I was, again, back a couple years ago, we were in groups of people during the eclipse, as everyone was oohing and aahing at this amazing thing in the heavens, I looked around me a little bit, and I noticed that, and this was so interesting, I don't know how many people ever noticed this, is that there are automatic light sensors on all the lighting throughout the Simbala Resort, and they had all gotten the message that more light was needed. And all the lights were on, all the pathway lights, all the building lights, they were all on. Nobody told them to go on, they just knew to go on because of those sensors. And I thought, it is so easy to get enamored with the darkness. And of course, we are enamored with this great thing of the eclipse. But we are so enamored with the appearance of darkness, and you're looking up at it. You might not see the illumination that is coming to your aid, maybe on the edges a little bit. That the lessons of the season is to look for that illumination and to know that it is here already, and that is the part that we need to embrace. There is no shortage of symbolic gestures by the universe right now, meaning, again, from astronomy. So there's another great astronomical event that's coming up on the 21st that I think is pretty amazing. It's called the Christmas star. And I think it may very well be the source from where the myth of the Christmas star in Bethlehem came from. So, again, I'm an expert astronomer right now because I had a 5-minute search on Google. And where it's the first time in 400 years we have Saturn and Neptune, I believe, coming Jupiter, yes, coming very close, and that they will appear in the night sky on the 21st as one larger star. It's also said in the records that it happened to this same degree around the time that we look back and say after the Common Era, or around the time that Jesus is said to have been born. So it possibly is the source of that. But at the point, I just love this metaphor, at the point of the darkest night on the 21st, this star appears. And think of it right now. I saw this little graph. So here they are. From now till then, each night they come a little bit closer. And so it's on the way. And on the 21st, they will appear to be visible. So that's the larger essence of this season. Yes, we have to look at this darkness. We have to really see what's in there. We have to seek healing and release. But we know that the light is here and the light is on the way. At the same time, the day after I received this email from Rabbi Robbie, I received something from the Wasmus Center. It shows the balance of things that owns the Anne Frank Memorial in Boise. And here's some of what was said. It says, now is the time for the voices of kindness and compassion to drown out those of hate and division. As Eli Wiesel noted, silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Let us begin with proclaiming we are everywhere as a community of kindness and compassion. Join us on Monday, December 14th, tomorrow, at 7 to 7:30 for a virtual online vigil titled We Are Everywhere. And I will be sending an email out later today of how to get to that live stream. If you don't get our emails, please email us today at officelightofthemountains.org and you'll get that. And he closed with, he says, the outpouring of support from throughout the nation has been overwhelming, including a $20,000 donation from Giovanni Yogurt in Twin Falls to help clean up the mess at the memorial. And he says, yes, Anne Frank's words do ring true. I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are truly good at heart. And that's what we will prove this season. We will arise from this darkness, and we will prove this. So let us come together. And in this darkness, let us give thanks, because the light is already here, as well as more light on the way. Let us not turn away from the darkness. Let us look at it. Let us examine it. Let us see which part is ours to heal. Let us fully look at it. And as we look at it, let us have the power to let it go and have it go away. The presence of light is within me and within each one of you. It is within our communities. That presence of light is within each member of Congress, each elected official in this country. That light is within each voter who voted this season. The light is unavoidable. The light cannot be put out. And as we recognize it, it is manifested in its magnificence. So let us just simply give thanks. And so it is.